Valve just announced the new Steam Machine and a new Steam controller and the same Steam Frame VR headset. But the Steam Machine is the headlining product, if you ask me, and if you ask anybody else. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I was not able to be on Unlocked because I went up to Valve in Seattle to check out the Steam Machine. I got hands-on with it. I got some playtime with it. I played a couple games on it. I interviewed the developers and really dug into the nitty-gritty of what the Steam Machine is and what it's going to be when it launches in early 2026. There's no price on this, but we do have a ton of details. So folks might remember the Steam Machine from 10 or so years ago, which was a set-top box that was a gaming PC that you could plug into a TV and play PC games like it's a console. But the problem is that one, SteamOS was in no place to do that yet. It was a pretty early software suite that hadn't really matured very much. Like, it worked fine for many cases, but it was not able to handle most things seamlessly. And also, there wasn't as much of an appetite for it. I think, PC gaming has always been huge, but PC gaming has exploded exponentially in the years since. So there's also an appetite for it now. And especially with the Steam Deck having come out 3 years ago and really revolutionizing the handheld gaming space. All of these things have paved the way for a new Steam Machine to make sense. So SteamOS is there as an alternative to Windows 11 and has gotten to the point where it's almost as good as any of the consoles UIs and OSs on the Xbox and PlayStation and all that. SteamOS is kind of there. It's really easy to use. If anyone's used the Steam Deck, they know how simple it is to figure out and it is to navigate. So basically, the Steam Machine is a docked Steam Deck that you can put into a TV that is about 6 times as powerful. So if you've ever wanted to dock your Steam Deck to a TV to play, like as if it's a Switch, the Steam Machine is basically, hey, what if you just had a much more powerful system that could do 4K, that could run games at much more competent frame rates and better graphics? That's what this is, because it is running SteamOS. It functions similarly to a Steam Deck by virtue of using the same operating system and kind of being in the same ecosystem now. So that being said, the reason why this is a big deal to Xbox and how this affects Xbox is kind of monumental. As Xbox tries to occupy more and more of the PC space, saying that everything is an Xbox and, thinking of next generation Xboxes as closer to a PC, it had made sense for Xbox to move in that direction. Like, we're not going to compete directly with PlayStation or Nintendo anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to lean on Windows because we are literally on every PC, and then occupy that space, double down on it, and become the primary gaming platform for anyone with a PC, and our consoles are going to exist in the same ecosystem as well. As we saw with the Asus Xbox ROG Ally. That was kind of their first big step into reconfiguring Windows to make more sense for a gaming experience and for someone who expects the kind of UI and UX from a console. The problem is now with the Steam Machine is that Valve has already figured out the user experience. 2, they have really good hardware here with this new Steam Machine. And 3, they have the goodwill of anyone who's interested in PC gaming. And as example, from the example of the Steam Deck, building off of the reputation that they have with the Steam Deck, going into the Steam Machine, everything is in Valve's favor. And Valve makes very, very deliberate decisions when they come out with anything, whether it's a game or if it's hardware. Like, they put a lot of research into this. They make very deliberate decisions. Valve is a relatively small company, so when they take a big swing, they better make sure that they don't miss.
And they have missed before, though. Like I said, the first Steam Machine.
Yeah. And so I think that, yes, though those were definite misses, but those were also building blocks in a way. They don't look at it as a failure and then they move on from it. It's like, okay, that didn't really pan out, but what can we take from those for something new? Like, we don't get the Steam Deck if we don't have the original Steam controller.
Yeah.
And then we don't have the new Steam controller or the Steam Machine without Steam Deck. So it's always like building off of the previous thing. Nothing feels wasted when it comes to Valve. And then it's like, oh, Xbox wants to expand in the PC space. Boom, they run into a new wall, and that's Valve. Of course, there is synergy, there is cooperation between Valve and Microsoft when it comes to PC gaming, because they have to go hand in hand, with.
I mean, for a while they didn't. They like butt heads because they wouldn't put their games on Steam.
Oh yeah,
That's
and
true.
So yeah, and since then now you have all Xbox games are coming out on Steam now. So there is a good relationship there. It's just that, if they thought they were going to be able to like have a relatively easy walk expanding in PC gaming, Valve shows up with like, not only are we the biggest distributor of PC games, but we also have really good hardware to go along with it that I think is an attractive prospect for a lot of people. That depends on price. They didn't have anything to say about price, and I think that is going to be a big factor in all of this. But looking on paper and having experienced what the Steam machine is and talking to the Valve developers there, I don't know. I feel like Valve has a good product on their hands. But we'll really benchmark it and see how it performs. But if you just want to get a relative idea of how it's going to perform, this thing's probably going to be more powerful than the Xbox Series X. But again, optimization on PC is a very, very different thing than optimization on consoles. So performance is going to vary a lot more. And again, this is still going to be a gaming PC, so you'll have to configure with graphic settings and frame rates, and something you still kind of got to account for, even though there is going to be a Steam Machine verified program the same way there's a deck verified program. That's just still something that kind of comes with the territory. But overall, I think that having a good piece of hardware and thinking about the next generation of Xboxes, there's still sort of a console war going on there.
Yeah, I mean, if Microsoft is quaking in their boots over this announcement from Valve, they're not showing it publicly. Phil Spencer did post on social today saying, gaming moves forward when players and developers have more ways to play and create, especially across open platforms. Expanding access across PC, console, and handheld devices reflects a future built on choice, core values that have guided Xbox's vision from the start. As one of the largest publishers on Steam, we welcome new options for players to access games everywhere. Congrats on today's announcement.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing too, right? Because I'm like, who would get this? And I'm like, literally me. Because that's the thing, right? That's the difference, is that I have had just how many years of games purchased on Steam, and I'm like, man, I wish I would have bought this on my Xbox or something, because now I want to play on my couch instead of my PC. And it's like, I mean, if the price isn't too bad, that would be kind of nice. But at the same time, you see the use case if you have someone who only has a PC and they have to like maybe lug a PC, hook it up to a TV. Like, there's ways you can make it work, but it's just not fun. And this just obviously simplifies that exponentially. So, Michael, I have a very important question.
Sure.
How is that controller?
Yeah, it looks like, to the eye, it doesn't look appealing to me, to my eye, but you've used it.
Yeah, I've used it. I tested the Steam machine using the Steam controller, and let me tell you something, that thing is really cool. I like it a lot. Yeah, look at that thing. I even say in my preview video that I was like, hey, look, I know this thing is kind of ugly, but it's not about, controllers aren't about how they look, it's about how they function. And there's so much kind of state-of-the-art tech packed into it. You have the trackpads from the Steam Deck, so it makes, like, you don't really miss out on anything when you're using the Steam machine and Steam OS. You still get all that functionality. It has a capacitive touch sensors on the back handle, so it recognizes your whether or not you're gripping it with your fingers, and so it has gesturing to it, like the Steam or the Valve Index controllers for VR. The thumbsticks also have capacitive touch sensors, so it recognizes when you are touching them. The sticks are TMR magnetic, so they're gonna last longer than the typical like Xbox and PlayStation controllers. The buttons feel perfectly fine. The symmetrical stick placement, some people might feel.
I know Miranda. That's the first thing Miranda's like.
That's the one.
I'm the same way.
It's like, please,
offset for life.
Don't offset. Offset. It's good for my small hands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with the trackpads, like you kind of. You kind of got to live with it. I think it's better than the Steam Deck, though. If you've used the Steam Deck, the sticks are pretty high up on the Steam Deck.
They are. I'm like,
yeah, it's a little hard, to play. If I'm playing FPS for a long time, I'm like, it's a bit much. So they brought them down a little bit more, so it makes more sense. It feels like using a PlayStation controller. but ergonomically, like if the back of the handles are really well done, like it contours with my hands really well. The back buttons, they have 4 back buttons, and they feel really easy to press.
Okay.
So those work really well. Analog
Can you
triggers,
plug
all
it?
that.
Can you connect an Xbox controller to it? Probably, right? It's a PC.
To the Steam machine?
Yeah.
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 It functions just like a PC. So it runs Proton, which is the compatibility layer that you could use in desktop mode. So you get all that same functionality. You could use any controller on it as if it's a PC. You use the Steam controller on a PC as well. So it's all this ecosystem is very it's very open.
Okay. How much do you think this is going to be? Like, if you're making a professional guess.
Valve has said that the Steam machine is going to be priced competitively with the equivalent gaming PC. So based on the specs, and this is a credit to Jackie Thomas, who I went to Valve with, she's our technical wizard who does all of our benchmarking and has a lot of the institutional knowledge when it comes to these things. She's saying hopefully under 1,000. I'm thinking maybe 800, 900, because that's about the I don't know if folks literally mess with the PC gaming space, but a gaming PC with like an RTX 4060 or an RX 7600 is going to be upwards of $1,000, if not more. But
Yeah.
again, this has to be competitively priced, and it is a closed system, so it's not like you're going to be able to upgrade it. It's like one spec. This is what you get with the Steam machine. So that kind of cuts out some of the fluff that may come along with a gaming PC. So I'm hoping that if this were to make a serious dent in the console or gaming hardware space, I would have to say $800 to $1,000 in that price range. So
Yeah.
And
I'm hoping
that's
800. That would make the most sense, and that'd be really, really cool.
And I think that's where we can kind of use this as something of a benchmark when we do get the price for what the next Xbox, the next generation Xbox is going to cost, because
Yep.
it seemingly is going to be this very similar console PC hybrid. And we've already had Sarah Bond using the term very premium. So yeah, I mean, do you agree, Michael? Do you think that whatever the price of this is, like, that's probably the range we can expect the next Xbox to land in price wise?
I think, well, whatever hardware they're going with, it's going to cost that much. So I don't think, I mean, it could influence what they end up pricing it a little bit, but ultimately it's the hardware that they pack in that is going to dictate price. But what I do think is that whatever the Steam machine comes out as in terms of price is going to set expectations. So consumer expectations are going to shift once this thing comes out, and then whatever Xbox needs to set their consoles at, their next generation of consoles at, then I think whether or not it's going to be palatable to their audience is kind of that's where the conversation is going to happen. If that influences Microsoft to bring their prices down, like, that would be great.
To your point too, like, I think you're dealing with two very different like mindsets. Like, for folks who have been in the PC space, you know how expensive these machines get and how much expensive it can be even just to upgrade an old machine. But if you're looking at from the console perspective, it's like significantly cheaper. So like pushing that price more, it feels like you have to justify it more. So like bringing what would be like a very small PC down, if you were in that space, it's like, oh, that's actually not so bad. Like, if I wanted a second PC that I don't have to upgrade anything and just kind of like jam pack in one thing. Versus, I think if you're looking from the console perspective, it's like, oh, that's actually really expensive.
Yeah.
But
That's,
like, I think it's really interesting of seeing like those ends, I guess.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because that's exactly what we saw with the Asus ROG Xbox Ally. Is like, on one hand, like, me and Jackie are right here saying, hey, this is actually kind of competitively priced if you think of this as a gaming PC handheld. Like, if you look at other ones like the Lenovo Legion Go and what the ROG Ally was in previous generations, like, this price range kind of makes sense for what you are getting. At the same time, if you're trying to appeal to a console-minded audience, that's a lot. It's going to be very expensive. So I think the Steam machine, and eventually the next Xbox, whatever it might be, is going to run into this kind of dilemma where if you're trying to be more PC-like, and you're going to have this state-of-the-art tech. That's going to be expensive, and I don't know if a wider console audience is going to look at that and think of it as, you know, as affordable or reasonable. You know, they might feel boxed out if these things become more PC, like, because the expectations are different and the technology is going to be different. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting conversation with whatever the next generation Xbox is going to be. Like, this whole space has changed so rapidly with handhelds, with PC gaming, with having x86 systems and having open source systems like a Steam OS, and then moving towards Windows, which is such a thing that you need to wrap your head around. Like, I talk so much about how much I hate Windows 11, but I have to live with it. And then I see what they do with the Xbox Ally and be like, okay, wait, they're making the right strides. They just need to go like a couple steps further to really get there. And so all these things are changing. Now it's not just about graphics, not just about hardware. It's about inviting people into an ecosystem, making it affordable, and making the experience seamless for anyone who wants to jump in. Like, we've hit diminishing returns with 4K and graphics. I was like, games look absolutely incredible, and if they're optimized correctly, they will run great as well. So as we reach that plateau a little bit closer and closer, it's all the things around the edges that are going to matter and are going to define success for all these different platforms, including Valve and Xbox and perhaps PlayStation, Nintendo in their future. But for right now, it's like, it feels like this is impacting Xbox more so than any other platform holder currently.
I have a couple last questions for you on this, Michael, and maybe you can't answer them right now. But one, do we know if Valve is going to sell this in stores, which they have not done with Steam Deck? Because that could limit the potential market for this, maybe. And then two, kind of on a similar note, like, because just building off of what you just said, you know, this is ultimately a Linux-based device running Proton, which is, you know, like a Windows compatibility layer. You know, might Microsoft perceive this, despite Phil Spencer's gracious comments? Like, could this be perceived as something of an existential threat to Windows, or maybe that's a little bit of a hyperbolic statement?
Yeah, I could see a case in which it could be, depending on how widely it is adopted. But I think more than it being an existential threat to Microsoft, it's just going to push them to be smarter about how they build Windows for a specific audience.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That's great.
I don't see Valve wanting to push into that space either. Like, I just don't think they would care to do that.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about, like, Valve is not a big company.
Yeah,
like,
they're weird.
If you think Microsoft is like huge, Microsoft is this big, and then the Xbox division is, you know, a subsection of that. Valve as a company is a much smaller subset of what the Xbox division is. So Valve, their version of success is very different. And I think because they have embedded themselves with Steam, the way in which their success scales is very different. So their objectives are going to be different from Xbox and Microsoft, even though they are competing in the similar space. So, and like I said before, as much as like I'm intrigued by this idea of a new console war happening on PC between Xbox and Valve, you know, ultimately, like, Phil Spencer is going to say nice things about whatever. Like, that's just the PR thing that you do when this was announced. But I do think that there has to be cooperation between, because every Windows gaming PC is going to have Steam on it playing Steam games. So
yeah,
they're going to exist in the same space. There's going to, in a similar way in which Xbox is now publishing games on PlayStation, you know, I think that if anything, like, Microsoft and Xbox is probably thinking of like, okay, if this is happening, if Steam is occupying more and more space, we at least need to accommodate them, or accommodate the people that are using that platform, and be like, same thing with the Xbox Ally, be like, hey, you can install your Steam games on this. We don't got no problem with that. And this is how you do it. We're going to let you do it straight up right here through the UI. And so as much as I think that there's going to be competition, there's also going to be a lot of cooperation. So yeah, and how Xbox is going to move in the PC space is going to be informed by Steam. And they're not, like, I don't think Xbox is thinking of PC as their next as going to be a monopoly for them, because if anything, Valve has already occupied so much of that space. But I think, the more and more these two platforms are able to synergize with each other, I think it's just going to make things a lot easier for all of us who play games on PC. And eventually, like a lot of Xbox users who in the future are going to have to, play in the space as well as those consoles become more PC-like.
Now, the future of gaming is very much PC, one way or the other. Unless you're playing on a Nintendo, that's where it's all heading.